You are listening to a Called Collective podcast where we seek to equip the next generation of ministry leaders. The Called Collective produces multiple podcasts, which you can find in the description below. To learn more about the Called Collective, visit our website at thecalledcollective.org or check us out on Instagram at The Called Collective.
Hi, and welcome back to another episode of Coffee and Calling It. This is your host, Levi.
And I'm Paula.
And we have a very special guest, a very special friend of ours here with us today.
They're always special friends.
Of course.
Today, we have Haley Fouts with us. She is amazing. She is my roommate. She takes care of me like I'm her own child.
She's super
awesome.
cool.
That's true. Yes.
She's the best.
Haley, tell us about yourself. Tell us what you do. Tell us what you like to do, your jobs, your hobbies, whatever you want to say.
Yeah.
And what you're drinking.
Oh, okay, yeah. My name is Haley Fouts. I am in my first year of master's in practical theology at Indiana Wesleyan University. I graduated in the spring with my bachelor's in Christian education and pastoral ministry.
Oh, she's smart.
I am smart.
Dang.
Just
Genius.
as smart as you guys, though. Don't worry. And so that's just been a really big blessing to just have that education and learn about ministry. So, yeah, if you couldn't tell, I'm pretty passionate about ministry. I love camp ministry and all the things, but if I start talking about it now, I'm just going to start the podcast. So we'll just find out more about me in the podcast.
And then your drink, what do we got?
Oh, yes. I have a blackberry matcha with oat milk.
Love it.
Crazy.
So, our fun question for today.
Yeah, so we were talking about Scooby-Doo earlier today.
We were.
And we were thinking, what would Haley Fouts, what would be her go-to cartoon when she was little?
That's a good question. I think it goes through phases of my age. I was a big Monster High girl. Huge.
What?
Okay.
I loved Monster High. I dressed up as Dracula one year for Halloween.
That is
I had all the
know
dolls.
that.
I had a whole collection. Loved all the movies. So that would probably be like my biggest like fandom. I don't know if fandom's the right word, but obsession with cartoons.
That is
So.
That's
deep in the
wild.
archives for me.
Yeah. I was not allowed to even like be near Monster High stuff as
I
a
was
child.
obsessed. I had the collector dolls,
What?
Wow.
everything.
That's crazy.
That's wild.
Yeah, my mom was like, "That's demonic.
God.
You're gonna turn into a brat."
So what was yours? What was your go-to, pal?
I literally watched Animal Planet.
Oh, gosh.
Very different from
I am
our
a
answers.
documentary child.
Wow. Probably very well versed on wildlife.
I am though, because that's all I did growing up. Saturday morning, you turn on like the top 10. It would be like top 10 scariest insects, and I would watch
And you
that.
would just be glued.
I would
They
love
had
it. Yes, it's
Oh.
my favorite.
I was a Ben 10 kid.
A what?
I
A Ben
love
10.
Ben 10. You don't know what that is?
No,
It was
Oh
there were
my gosh.
monsters in it. She wasn't allowed. She would,
Too demonic.
She wouldn't get it.
that's hilarious. Probably.
Today, me and Paula have like legit coffee. This is the
We
first time
do.
that we actually have coffee on Coffee and
Yeah,
Calling.
I feel like we've said that before though.
Because maybe we had like lattes or something, but we actually have
yeah.
like coffee, like fresh brew.
Yeah,
Stuff.
classic.
But the only problem with it is that they are an hour and a half old.
Stop! Don't tell people that. They're still good.
They are.
They're just a little colder,
True.
but they get the job done. I feel energized.
Good.
I woke up this morning really tired,
Yeah.
and I thought about this fresh brew, and I brought my $1.75.
Paula has this thing where she brings quarters in to work, and then
do.
she goes and she spends it on
I did.
coffee like a little old lady. And it's fun. It's fun.
I'm prepping for my future.
All right, enough about us. What are we
Yeah.
doing? Let's get to our special guest. So tell us your call to ministry. Tell us kind of your story and your passion for ministry, where you see yourself going. Lay it all on us.
Yeah. So I think I really can't tell my call to ministry until I tell, how I came to know the Lord and how I got saved.
Let's go.
So I did not grow up in a Christian household. I knew a little bit about who God was. And actually with the cartoon question, I remember I watched VeggieTales as a kid, but we were not a
Whoa.
Christian household. So I think that was honestly probably where I knew that there was just like an idea of God, but I never thought of like having a relationship with him. And I really don't think I really knew much about who Christ was. And so when I was in 6th grade, our neighbor had invited us to a church. And I remember we went for our like Christmas service and they had a slide on stage. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is phenomenal. This looks like so much fun. And I started going to the youth group and I would just kind of have fun every week. Didn't really think much outside of that. Then I started getting promotions. They started promoting their camp that they went to. And so they went to CIY Mix, which stands for Christ in Youth. And I thought it looked like so much fun in the promo videos, but I was like, no way I can afford to go to that. But the Lord made a way. My mom ended up asking me and signing me up. So I went in. I literally did not know a single soul, sat next to a stranger on the bus, but it was the best, most life-changing week of my life. At the end of the week, they asked, they did the call to salvation, and they're like, if you want to accept Christ for the first time, like stand up. And I really didn't know what that meant much. That week I got to really hear Christ for the first time and get to experience his love. But when they did that call to salvation, I just found myself standing. Like I just knew I was meant to stand. And I know now that was the Holy Spirit, calling me into a relationship with him. And so I got back from camp and I got baptized. And that next year I just, started learning more about Christ. I started going to church regularly, getting, plugged into small groups. And I went back to CIY Mix the next year, with this newfound faith of following the Lord for the past year. I brought a friend who had never known Christ, got to see her accept Christ. And the same time at the end of the week, they did, call to salvation, call to recommit your life. And then they did a call to ministry. And growing up, I never knew much of what I wanted to do or what I was passionate about. And for the first time, that was something I saw the people on stage and just them preaching the gospel. And I was like, I want to do that. And like, I just felt like the Lord was calling me into it. So just like how he called me into, a relationship with him, I just knew the Holy Spirit was prompting me to stand and accept that call. And the Lord's been really faithful since then. That was like 8 years ago when I had my call to ministry, 9 years of knowing the Lord. And the Lord has just been very faithful in, affirming that call and all the things. And so I've been given a lot of ministry opportunities. I served as a small group leader in my church. I started serving as a camp counselor. And then that was really what kind of formed my call. I just saw how the Lord worked through me through camp. And so I just knew that I wanted to be a part of that ministry and that he was calling me to that. So I've had opportunities to serve at Spring Hill camps as a day camp counselor for 2 summers. And that was just so fun with the little kids and seeing, teaching them and all the things. And then I also did IWU here at Indiana Wesleyan. Their summer ministry teams, traveled, got to see a bunch of different camps done in a bunch of different ways, yet the Lord working so powerful in each time. And then this past summer was probably one of my most incredible experiences. I actually got to return to Christ in Youth, where I grew up going to camp, and joined their event staff. And that was just a phenomenal experience, just kind of full circle moment of God just saying, I brought you to this. I brought you to this moment. I've prepared you for such a time as this to just do this for the rest of your life. So I'm just very blessed. And that's just kind of the shortened version. And I probably could keep going, but yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love to see, I love that story because I love the way that the Lord, he loves to take things from our past. And then this isn't a redemption story, but he loves to gift us with those things that are the full circle thing and be like, this is where you started. And now you're on stage.
Yeah.
Now you're the one that kids are looking at and being like, oh, I want to do ministry. That's what I want to do. And I don't know. I just love that story.
Yeah.
It makes me so pumped up, how cool the Lord is.
Yeah. Yeah. So I want to hear a little more about your journey after you got called to ministry. Were there any doubts of your calling? And then were there moments, and you spoke to it a little bit, but of reassurance that this is what the Lord has called me to do?
Yeah, for sure. I, again, didn't grow much in a Christian household. After I came to the Lord, my family slowly kind of started to, acknowledge God more. But when I got my call to ministry, my family didn't really get it. They were like, you're not going to make that much money and all the things. And so that was hard at first, but the Lord was just very faithful in putting people in my life and mentors and spiritual leaders in my life who, gave me opportunities to serve. And I just saw how life-giving that was. And so all of high school, I would say that my call to ministry, I didn't know exactly what it looked like. And, sometimes I would tell people I went to school with, because I went to a public school, I'd be like, oh, I want to be a pastor or whatever. And they're like, pastor? And, give me the weird looks. And so that was a little hard sometimes. But, I knew how fruitful and how life-giving this call was and just serving in my local church. But I think the hardest season of life for me was when COVID hit and I started college, because I had been preparing and praying to go to a Christian university to get my degree in ministry. And COVID hit. I stopped serving in the church because of all the restrictions. I didn't get to do camp that summer. And so I showed up to classes and started taking classes for ministry, but I wasn't doing ministry. And so I just kind of wasn't seeing the life that ministry was. I wasn't being a part of it. And so that made it more hard to just, be passionate about my classes. And so I never doubted my call to ministry, but there were times where I just, didn't know where the Lord had me in it. And I doubted my ability because I forgot why I was doing it. But I was like, I know I'm called, but right now I don't feel very called. And so that was a struggle. And, since then, fast forward to that end of my, freshman year, I got back into camp. The Lord, placed it on my heart. I wasn't even going to do camp that summer. And the Lord was like, no, you're going to do camp. I called you into this. And then that was a big reminder for me. And that was just a big thing for me. But a specific moment where I kind of found myself struggling with my call to ministry, or, where the Lord has me right now is, I think when I went to IWU summer ministry teams, I was really nervous leading up to the summer. It was my first summer traveling so much. I was a team lead. And so there was a lot of anxieties coming with that. And so I was just really unsure if that was where I was supposed to be that summer. But that first week was really phenomenal. And I think it was really big for me because the camp directors were just really great. And on the last day of that camp, the camp director pulled me aside and was like, you are made for this. Wow. I can just see it in you. You have just a special anointing of ministry, and especially for this camp ministry. And just, that was just so huge. Just almost like a love letter from God of just speaking over me. And so there's just been little moments like that where the Lord has just kind of spoke to me through other people, of just people being like, you're made for this. This is where you're supposed to be. And I'm just really blessed because I couldn't see myself doing anything else. And so he's just given me opportunities time and time again. And so again, I've never doubted my call to ministry, but there's definitely been times where I'm just like, I don't know where you want me at the season of life, or, am I actually doing a good job in ministry right now? So, yeah.
You said something that really caught my attention. You're like, how you felt like you knew you were called to ministry, but you didn't feel like it. What would you say to people that are in that exact situation, and not just about doing yes, you got back into ministry, but how did your heart change? How did you get your mindset to change? What was it that the Lord did, and what would you tell people who are I know I'm called to ministry, but I just don't feel it?
Yeah, I think a lot of times it's almost like if you're have a big vacation planned and you're looking forward to it, but you're not in it. And you're I know this is going to happen someday, and I just have to sit with what's right now until that happens. And I think just changing, the way you think, if you're oh, I don't really feel called in ministry, I'm not really, been given opportunities, or maybe there's a time that you feel you got overlooked for an opportunity, and you're well, if they don't see that in me, it's hard for me to see that in myself. And know that call to ministry from God is one of the greatest calls that you can receive. And no one can, people can be used to affirm that, but no one can truly deter you from that. If you're just you just need to hold truth to what God says. And so I think just staying rooted in my relationship with the Lord was huge. If I wasn't, in my Bible, or if I wasn't, in worship, then it's just I'm not even seizing the Lord in little moments. How am I gonna, seize and praise the Lord for the big moments in ministry? And so just I don't know, it can be hard when you're not, feeling called in a ministry, and you see other people who are just oh man, they're just such a faithful servant. Just know that the Lord is using it, and he's preparing you for just a great and fruitful time. And maybe it's just not the season in the moment of the specific ministry that he's called you for. And so I think it's just it takes a lot of trust. I think there's no really recipe for, okay, well, this is how you cure it. I think it's just a lot of waiting, but I think you might see it later of just the fruit and just how much you've grown in that. So, yeah.
Can you tell us a few of those rewarding moments that you've seen so far in ministry?
Yeah. Oh gosh, so many. I think relationally wise, when I did IWU summer ministry teams, I just had some of the most phenomenal campers, and just phenomenal conversations. And that one was hard doing summer ministry teams because those students I only had for a week, and then, probably never going to see them again.
Yeah.
And so I had to go in knowing that, but also knowing just how, I know that week can change their lives. And so I just got to see some students, make decisions for the Lord and, have conversations. I think that actually reminds me of a student. There's a student that I had as a small group leader for 4 years, and she is phenomenal. She's so great. And oh my gosh, I'm not going to name drop her because I don't know if I'm allowed to do that, but she is so great. She's just so on fire for the Lord. And I just was so blessed that she was in my small group. And I haven't been her small group leader in 4 years because I came to college, yet sometimes I still text her and talk to her. And she has a call to ministry. And she told me the other day she's coming to IWU next year. And so I feel like I didn't do much. I just think the Lord was just, very faithful. But she just, she's just like, I thank you so much for just like the ways that you've impacted me. Like you'll never know. And like, sometimes I didn't even realize that I had that big of an impact. So to just see her just be still such a faithful servant of the Lord, and now to have a call to ministry, and now, to come to IWU and stuff has just been really great. But one of the biggest moments for me was this summer at CIY, because that's where I came to know the Lord. It was the first week of camp, and it was the response night. And that was so huge. I was sitting up in the balcony and, it was the end of the first week of me working at CIY, and they had the altar call of students coming on stage. So they'd come on stage and they would step on this platform and it would light up. And they were like, if you were accepting Christ for the first time, just come on this, come step on the platform during this worship moment. And I remember the worship song started. They did the call. No one had walked up at first, like it wasn't like there was a rush. And I see this student just, make his way up and be the first person of the summer to make that call that's going to change their lives. And I knew that it was not just like, they were not just stepping into a moment, they were stepping into a lifetime. And I knew the Lord had done it in my life, and I know he's going to do it in the students. So I was wrecked. I sobbed for probably an hour, like could not stop. I just watched student after student, make a life-changing decision. And I just knew like, oh my gosh, like I cannot get over this. And so like, I never want to become numb to the transforming work of the Lord, because I saw it the rest of the summer. And so that was great. But that first week was I was just so starstruck by just the work of the Lord and how he's doing it time and time again. And I didn't even do anything. Like it wasn't like I led that student to Christ. Like I just was a small part in just that week. And just the fact that I get to be a part of that was just super rewarding.
That is so sweet. I love when the Lord does that. And that's just so tender.
Yeah. If there's any advice that you would give to a high school student that is going into ministry, what would be your advice to them? How they can prepare and, maybe disclaim some doubts?
I think, again, something big that I had mentioned before in my call to ministry, like I was just really blessed with a lot of community of faithful people who were pursuing Christ, who also pushed me in my call. And so I was given opportunities, as soon as a freshman in high school to just serve and to be in ministry. And so I was looking forward to be at IWU and, be a ministry student, but I was a ministry student from the moment the Lord called me. Yeah. I was being obedient and just stepping into whatever that may have looked like. And it doesn't have to be big. I'm not telling you to take over your church, but, just start small wherever the Lord might call you, be a small group leader, volunteer for a week of camp, even just the cafe, just small ways that you can be serving now, because ministry is experience. The greatest things that I've ever learned in ministry is experience, and you can start that experience now. Yeah. And so just looking at ways that you can get involved and connected, and it doesn't even need to be within your church. It could be some type of ministry outside of your church, but just take advantage of the time that you have now, because it's going to build into this call of ministry that you have for the rest of your life. Yeah. So, yeah.
That's good.
Totally.
That's really good.
I feel like people, I do this too, and I did this when I first got my call into ministry, is we are looking so far ahead to what we expect our future to be. Yeah. And so for me, it was always looking at the camp speakers, and we had one year where it was, or a couple years where it was a woman, and I was like, I have to be her. And then that's just all I wanted to be, but I wasn't serving, I wasn't doing anything. And I'm just sitting here tapping my feet, waiting for me to suddenly become a camp speaker.
Right. Yeah.
And I don't even want to do that anymore, but I still do the same thing sometimes. I'm tapping my feet, waiting for me to become whatever is my biggest dream. And what you said is perfect. You need to be faithful right now in the small things. Be faithful in working in the cafe, working as a small group leader. Be faithful in like the one meeting you might have with one student.
Right.
That is where character is built. That is where ministry is built. It's not going to happen suddenly out of nowhere. The Lord's going to like yank you on stage and be like, all right, there's your platform.
Yep.
There's everyone you need to preach to.
Now work hard. Now be faithful.
Yeah, no, you're going to fail if
And you're not
going to
have the habit.
Yeah.
You're not going to have the habit of faithfulness.
Yeah. So start the habit of faithfulness now in your
Yeah.
work and in the small things, especially like if you're a 14-year-old and you're like just got your call into ministry, obviously you can't like be in charge of a mega church. But what you can do is volunteer in the kids ministry.
Mm-hmm.
What you can do is pour into fourth graders.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what the Lord wants you
Yeah.
to do. And he loves that. He does.
Yeah.
You also talked earlier about like not wanting to become numb to the call, which
Yeah.
that is like something is so good, because when I feel like a lot of the times when we fail is because we've become numb to the power of Jesus.
Mm.
How have you stayed like excited about that call? Like how are you in that place where when you see one student come to know the Lord, it wrecks you and you cry for an hour?
Mm-hmm.
I think for me is I'm just such a relational person. And so like I mentioned, I was a small group leader for 4 years in high school, and I got to know those group of girls really well. Just got to see the ways that the Lord worked in their lives. So that's just something that like kind of keeps me going in a sense. So I'm constantly seeking out ways that, I can know students and know their stories, because it just kind of reminds me that every decision is a life. Every decision is a student, and it's a ripple effect.
Yeah.
Like, one student gets a call to ministry. You know how many people they're going to, help lead to Christ and be used by God.
Yeah.
And so like this summer, especially because I was never a camp counselor, I was just helping with activities. So like I challenged myself to get to know the students, just get to know just a small piece of who they are. I didn't even need to know their full story. I just needed to know something fun about them, because it reminded me that these are real students. These are real lives that are being called into something greater than themselves. So that was huge for me, because it's just like this work matters so much. So like even when I was doing moments of ministry that didn't seem like it mattered, like if it was just small, felt insignificant, like no one was seeing me what I was doing, like even just like setup stuff for like camp, it's tiring, it's exhausting sometimes, but I had to remind myself that like I'm feeding into the bigger picture of where a student might hear Christ for the first time or be called into something greater than they could ever know. And so just, keeping myself rooted into just the stories of students and the testimony, and not just in my own life, but in others. So that was something huge for me, just to remind myself that every story is different, every person's different, but the call to be in a relationship with Christ is just as great.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Tell us about the missions trip that you took that had to do with some children's ministry.
Yeah. So I've been to Guatemala twice. I went in 2019 and built a house through Casas por Cristos. And when I came home, my sophomore year, I came home for a weekend at my church, and my church did this big missions weekend. And I had always been wanting to go back to Guatemala. I was supposed to go back in 2020, and then 2020 happened. And they were like, we have a big announcement. We're going to go to Guatemala. We found out we actually have a bunch of flight points, so we're only going to make it $600.
Wow.
I was like, sign me up. I
Yeah,
don't
let's
care
go.
what it takes for me to get there. I will be there. So I missed some classes, whatever.
Who cares?
And so I ended up going back to Guatemala last year in October in 2022. And I got to serve at a place called Liberty Christian Academy. And it is actually started by a missionary from my church. And it is a school for Christian girls in Guatemala who are living in poverty. So a lot of times in Guatemala, the education is prioritized for boys than girls. And a lot of girls have to stay home and work. And typically the common work field in Guatemala is making fireworks, which is incredibly dangerous for girls. And they also are not getting education, so they don't know much life outside of that. And so Liberty Christian Academy is just kind of, breaking down those barriers and providing education, Christian education for girls who are in the community. And so I had the opportunity to go to Guatemala last year and just kind of almost put on a VBS for those students. And it was phenomenal. Those girls are just so sweet and hold a special place in my heart. And so we came in each day. We would teach them a Bible lesson. Then we would do like a Bible activity. And then we would just get to play with the kids. And it was just so fun just to see the joy that they had, even though like the backgrounds that they were coming from. And it was so sweet. We also did worship with the kids. in Spanish in their language. And I really connected with this girl named Annie Ellie. And she is so sweet. She's so cute. She became kind of my buddy through the week. She would come and find me each morning. And during the worship was really special because we were listening to a Christian song that was like a slower Christian song, but they had actions to it. But she didn't want to do the actions. She would grab my hands and we would slow dance to the song. And she would sing it in Spanish and I knew the song in English, but we would both sing it in our respective languages and just it kind of felt like it was just us in that moment.
Wow.
And so like, again, that's just like what I was speaking to earlier of just like, seeking those individual students sometimes to remind myself that these are real people. And so that was just a really great opportunity because just seeing the ministry and knowing that there's ministry outside of just my bubble and my circle and how the Lord is just kind of working throughout the world and kind of I have a heart for missions, just not long term. And so just kind of keeping me rooted. I would love to go back to, hopefully I would love to maybe go back to Liberty, ideally once a year. And I didn't get to go back this year, but I would love to go back sometime and just kind of be rooted in that. And I sponsor that girl now. So that's just something that's really special that I kind of get updates on her life. But yeah, that was my trip. It was a great opportunity that I wasn't expecting that the Lord kind of just placed. And it also kind of fuels. So I have a short passion. So the reason I'm Christian education is because I, for some reason in 2020, just felt a call to teach. I had been a first and second grade apprentice in high school and loved children's ministry. I have a passion for youth and children and realized how much I love the classroom setting of just teaching. And that's not something that I feel called to like right now, but I see myself potentially doing when I'm just kind of older and teaching at a Christian school.
Yeah.
So just to be in a Christian school in a different setting and context was just really powerful and really great. And so that was definitely a unique experience that I was really blessed to be a part of.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's a beautiful picture of what the church is. You with this little girl that you've met in a couple days, dancing to worship in different languages.
Yeah.
Of different ethnicities, of different people groups, of different experiences, but unified through Christ.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful picture.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
Of course.
I think everyone should, like, if you have the opportunity, every Christian should go at least on one international mission trip. Like, if you have the opportunity and the resources, because it just, like, changes. Well, first of all, it's a call, not to, like, I mean, you don't have to go internationally, but it is a call to go to the nations. But, like, secondly, like, it just changes the way that you view the Lord. It changes the way you view Christian community.
Yeah.
And, like, it also, like, what you're saying, you just have this new sense of, like, unity in the spirit. And that's something, like, we get in America because, obviously, it's, like, very diverse country. There's a lot of different people groups, a lot of different places. But it's just different when it's, like, you're somebody somewhere else. You don't know the person, you don't know their language, but you're still like brother and sister. You're still so unified in Christ, and it doesn't make sense how you could be so close, but you are. It is a beautiful picture, and it's amazing. And I think everybody, if they have the opportunity, you gotta go because it's just so amazing. It changes you.
Yeah. Makes the mission seem broader than yourself.
Right.
Yes.
You get out of your circumstance, you get out of your scenario in your own life, and it's just like, wow, God is the God of the entire world.
Right.
Yeah. Everybody.
Everyone. Yeah, that's awesome. So tell us a little bit about your future plans, where you sense the Lord kind of nudging you in your future.
Yeah, so I'm a big future planner girl. I love having a plan for my life. And the Lord has just been really faithful to answering and provided opportunities to kind of answer that plan. And I think, because I've been faithfully serving the Lord, I feel a little bit in step with the Spirit. And so, like, He's just provide opportunity after opportunity of things that I've already been passionate about and wanting to do. And so, again, I've served, in a bunch of different camp settings, and I know that I'm called into camp ministry. I don't know how long that looks. I don't know when that looks. So that is a big thing for me. I'd love to work at a camp organization full time, just, developing what this week looks like, because I think it's so powerful. And I think I know the Lord works in powerful ways. And I just would love to just be a part of that and planning that and, knowing what works in a camp and knowing what doesn't and forming that, because, you only get those students for a week and you want to do it well because, some of those students, like, they were brought by their friends and they've never stepped into a church, but they'll come to a fun church camp.
Yeah.
Right.
And so, like, you
Yeah,
got
they
to
will.
disciple them and send them well. And so, like, I'd love to be a part of that and love to be a part of forming that. But again, I have a passion for children's or youth. So I've been in the local church. I would love to potentially be a children's or youth pastor someday in the church. And then again, I mentioned I love teaching. So Christian teacher could also be on my radar. I don't know. I'm a little everywhere, but at the same time,
You can do it all.
It's all great opportunities. And there could be like, I'm a youth pastor for a few years, then I work in camp for a few years, and then I'm a teacher.
Yeah.
I don't know. Don't know what that plan looks like exactly, but I have kind of just an idea. But I know whatever I do, it's going to be ministry.
Yeah.
I'm too passionate about it. And I know that the Lord's called me to not do it. Like, I couldn't imagine myself doing anything else. And I'm just so blessed to have that.
Yeah.
This is actually a quote that Levi told me, I think, once, because we were talking about
Oh gosh, what I
like
say.
it was horrible. It's heresy. No. It was just about like what we want to do and like just like not knowing exactly specifically what we're called to, but knowing we're called to ministry. And he was saying that like sometimes the Lord gives us a yard with like a fence. Is this ringing a bell for you?
Yeah.
The Lord gives us a yard with a fence, and he just says, go play in the yard. And then for a lot of us, it's just like, go do ministry. But he's not like, you have to do specifically this. And he is pleased with whatever you choose. Like if one, for
There's
a few
plenty
years.
of trees. There's plenty of trees to pick from within the fence. Just stay in the fence.
Yes.
I called you to ministry. There's categories of ministry. Have your choice.
Exactly. And I feel like that's like something people get so freaked out about. They're like, what if I do the wrong ministry? Like, what if I blah, 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 blah.
Right.
I'm like, okay, if the Lord said to you, like, you need to do this ministry, you better do it. But a lot of the times it's like, he just wants you to do ministry. And as long as you're faithfully serving him, he is so pleased. And like, I think that's your story. And that's a lot of people's stories is like, you get to do so many different things and he will be so pleased with all of it. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, we want to thank you for being on the podcast. We have this last segment where we encourage our special guests. We give them words of identity and words of affirmation. And so, Paula, you want to start us off?
Yes. Haley, you are one of my roommates, one of my best friends, and it has been so just amazing to grow close to you and to see your faithfulness to the Lord. Your faithfulness, your commitment, and your loyalty to the Holy Spirit is something that I admire like so much from afar. Maybe I don't tell you that enough, but I really do. And I love to hear you worshiping in your room. Like I love to hear you seeking after the Lord. No, I'm serious. Like I do love it because you're just a person that makes people want to be closer with the Lord. And that's what Christians are supposed to be. And Christians are called to, and you do it so well. And you also love people incredibly well. You're a very yes person. You will not like deny someone needs. You will not deny someone care to put your own needs above them. Like you are constantly putting people first. And sometimes I get mad at you because I'm like, put yourself first. But it's amazing. It's ministry, and you do it so well, and you love people well, and you're just an amazing person.
Yeah. I would say to echo that, I think the word that comes to mind is just love and compassion. You are a woman of love and compassion. There's two things that I really love about you is that you have a zeal, a joy, an excitement for God, and it's also met with this incredible depth of relationship with God, and it's met with wisdom. And I think a lot of ministers either overextend themselves in one of those categories, but you don't compromise either one. You are wise, you are deep, you love the Lord, you love people, and you're also excited to do it. And I just admire that. You're just the best.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for having me on, guys. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you for being on.
Thank you for listening to all those who listen.
Appreciate y'all. You guys are the best. Everybody's the best. That's my phrase
We
today.
love everyone. Peace.
Peace. Deuces.
We'd also like to take a second to thank the School of Theology and Ministry at Indiana Wesleyan University for using their facilities. We want to thank the Call Collective for producing all of our podcasts. The Call Collective seeks to equip the next generation of ministry leaders. To find out more information, visit thecalledcollective.org or check us out on Instagram @thecalledcollective. Thanks for listening again and taking time in your day to have the chance to be formed by the conversations we have over coffee. See you guys next week.